thank you everyone for watching today. My name's Kirsten Kloss, and you're watching author interviews here on Netcast Event and BizDev Weekly. I'm here with Chris Hamilton in studio, and Chris and I are very, very excited and very proud to actually have a very special guest, Brian Tracy, with us today. And Brian comes to us live via Skype, and we're going to talk about his latest book. Brian, thanks very much for joining us on the show today. You're a busy man, and it's great to have you.
Well, thank you. You know, I spent a lot of time in Calgary. I did a lot of sales calls, made a lot of sales presentations. I used to be in Calgary every week, knocking door to door, calling on companies to sell stuff. So I'm very familiar with Calgary as well as Edmonton.
Excellent. We have a global audience, so we have people coming from all over the place to watch this stuff, and then after the fact they get to watch this on our websites as well. So I'm gonna jump into the book. First of all, it's called Unlimited Sales Success, and it is the 12 simple steps for selling more than you ever thought possible, which is intriguing. I thought there was only 10, but I'm glad you got 12. And I'm gonna just jump right in and just, Brian, why did you write the book?
Well, I started off in selling in my teens, and the turning point in my life came when I discovered that selling was a learnable skill, and that the more of it and the better of it you learn, the more you can sell. And I struggled and sold nothing until I made this discovery. It changed my life forever. And after that, I became a very aggressive student of every part of selling, and my sales in the next year went up about 10 times.
Wow. And
see, even to this day, I went from rags to non-rags, as I say. I still shake my head. And then I've now, in the last 30 years, I've trained more than 5 million salespeople in 62 countries. Wow. With these principles and ideas. And the success stories I've had have just been phenomenal. People come back and they write me letters almost with tears on the pages, talking about how they struggled, and then they learned how to sell through my programs, courses, videos, audios. And now they live in beautiful homes and they have wonderful families, and their kids are in private schools. They said it's just life transforming as it was for me.
Excellent. It's it is a great book. I love it. I read it, and the one thing that stuck out to me, I loved the idea of the 90-minute principle. And it's when I started reading it, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. And can you just kind of give your high level on the 90-minute principle? I mean, for that concept alone, people should buy the book.
Well, I ask my audiences, I say, what is your goal in your job? And their goal is to make money. And how do you make money? Well, you make sales. I said, so therefore, when you're engaging in activities that make sales, then you're working. Is that correct? Yes. Well, then for the first 90 minutes of every day, all you do is you don't check your email, you don't do social media, you don't drink coffee or read the paper. For the first 9 minutes of every day, like a runner, you put your head down and all you do is prospect and develop business. All you do is call people and arrange appointments. All you do is make sales, and then take a break, and then come back and spend the next 90 minutes. And all you do is business generation. We call it new business development. Is focus every single minute of every single day doing the things that pay you money, the reasons why you're on the payroll in the first place. And it transforms your life, because most salespeople actually waste most of their time. About 80% of a salesperson's day is wasted in non-sales activities.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. When I looked at it, I'm like, yes, absolutely. I get it. And I think it's phenomenal. Of course, you go more into the book on that one. But the other one, too, that I really liked in there, and I do this quite a bit. I'm a stats guy at heart. And in Chapter 5, you talk about showing the rate of return for your clients. And my question to you is kind of, why is that so important? And what's a great way of showing someone a rate of return when you're trying to sell something?
Well, human beings make decisions in a particular way. And basically, they were going to be better off after the decision than before. The only question in selling is how much better off. If they're marginally better off, well, then maybe they will, maybe they won't. If they will be substantially better off, well, then the decision is very, very easy. So your job as a salesperson is to show them that this is where you are today and this is where you'll be in terms of benefits and rewards when you use my product or service. And then to show them, demonstrate to them. What I do in all of my sales work, and we sell millions of dollars worth of products in probably 50 countries every year, primarily online, is I basically say that if you don't get a return that's vastly in excess of your cost, then you give it back to us and there's no charge. And I've unconditionally guaranteed my work, my products, my services now for 30 years. And I say you should not have to pay for a product or service that doesn't leave you substantially better off. So if you want to be in sales, then you say, how can I demonstrate, how can I guarantee, how can I illustrate, how can I show my prospect that they will be substantially better off with my product than without, and that the amount that they pay is going to be overwhelmed by the benefit that they get. And this is basically your starting point.
Well, I've made a return off your book already, and the lucky thing is, Anna sent me the book for free to read, so I'm not coming back for a refund.
Chris always likes cheap stuff, I mean, what can I say?
Hey, one of the other things, Brian, you talk about in chapter 6 is talking about identifying the client's needs, and being in sales for roughly 25 years. I'm really dating myself when I talk stuff like that, but I'm similar to you. I started in my teens as well. What have you found useful in trying to find out what a client's needs are? Because I know a lot of people struggle with that. What kind of advice do you have on something like that?
Well, there's several ways to approach it. The simplest way is simply to ask them. But the most important work that you do in selling is thinking, and thinking in advance. And so you say, what would be my ideal prospect? What need, problem, goal would my ideal prospect have for which my product or service is the perfect choice? And we always, I call it the problem to be solved, TBS, problem to be solved. What is the problem that your product or service will solve? And who has this problem? And how can you identify these people? And then how can you show them that your product or service is the perfect choice for them? And you can just keep asking that, because if you're trying to sell a product or service to a person who does not have a need for it, or you're trying to focus on the need that this person does not have, then it will fall on deaf ears. And so one of the things that I do, and I teach this in my books, is you say the primary reasons, the three major reasons why people buy our product, Mr. Prospect, it's reason 1, reason 2, reason 3. Do any of these 3 apply to you? Perfect way of identifying needs.
Excellent. And you touch on a point there too. It's like, do they have the budget? Do they have the need? Do they have everything like that? You go into the book. I'm not going to get into it here, but that's once again one more reason to go buy the book as I hold it up and show everyone. It's it's fascinating. Now I think Kirsten had a question.
Brian, well,
for you.
I have a question here, and that is, you talk about investing in yourself, and why should a salesperson invest in themselves, and where should they start in that whole process?
Well, what changed my life, and I've always, it's sort of like a drum beat. I say the same thing over and over again. Read every day in sales. Read the best stuff that's out there, including my material. Listen to audio programs on selling when you travel around. Attend sales seminars. And why are these 3 important? It's because every person I've ever met who's gone from rags to riches, who's literally struggled living in a basement apartment and now lives in a beautiful house in a lovely neighborhood, does those 3 things. They first of all read. You see, the most important quality for success in life is self-confidence. Self-confidence is a combination of many factors, but the greatest factor is the confidence that you can succeed. This is a good product and service, and if I sell it really well and really aggressively, I can be successful. I can make a good living. And that self-confidence pours from you almost like the radiance of a sun, and it affects the psyche and the mentality of your prospects. So the greater self-confidence you have, the more confident you are, the more positive you are, the more optimistic, the more cheerful, the more influential you are with other people. So the more you read and learn about your profession, the greater confidence you have that, hey, I can do this and I can do this well. And eventually it becomes almost like part of your DNA.
Well, and it totally makes sense, because then you build up all of this exuberance and excitement over the product because you know it inside and out, and you're right, it is contagious, absolutely. Chris?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I one of the things that we was looking at in here is, and I thoroughly believe this and understand it, is setting goals as a person and trying to figure out where you're going. So I've got the guru here talking to him. I want to understand why it's so important for somebody to take a look at setting goals. And I think so few salespeople actually do that. Personal goals, not just company goals when a company says go do this and set your goals up and we'll review them. Even personal goals. What's your concept around personal goals as a salesperson?
Well, goal setting changed my life. Every person in life has certain turning points. And my first turning point was learning that all sales skills are learnable. Wow. That you could sell anything you want to learn if you just learn the skill. Almost like mechanics are learnable. cooking is learnable, selling is learnable. But the second thing was goal setting, writing down very clear, specific goals. And we can go into the psychology of it. I'm probably the best-selling author on goal setting in the world in 22 languages. Basically, what happens is when you set down a goal, you activate a whole series of mental powers within yourself and within the universe that starts to attract people and opportunities into your life to achieve those goals. And the last couple of days, I've been thinking about this, and I'm thinking of writing a book called Dare to Dream, or Idealize. And what you do is you write out a description. You say, if my life was perfect in every way, how would I describe it? And you write down, I would earn this amount of money. I would live in this type of home. I would drive this kind of a car. I would provide this kind of living, vacations, a lifestyle for my family. I would weigh this amount of money. In other words, you can't hit a target that you can't see. Mm-hmm. And we said a couple of minutes ago that thinking is important, but thinking on paper is important. And there's two types of people in the world, those who have written goals and those who don't. And the last couple of years, they've had this big kerfuffle in the U.S. about the 1% versus the 99%. Well, if you actually look at the numbers, and I've studied this, it's really the 3% versus the 97%. It's the 3% who earn all the money and have all the possibilities. And what is the one quality based on 50 years of research is they all have written goals. People in the top 3% earn an average of 10 times as much as people in the bottom 97% because they have written goals that they work on every day. And people say, well, it's not that important. It's not that important. I say, look, I'm not asking you to cut off your hand or to sell your family jewels. I'm asking you to take a piece of paper and a pen and write down what you want. And people say, well, I don't need to do that. I know what I want. I'm clear about. It's exactly the same as driving off across a brand new country as a foreign tourist with no map and no road signs and say, well, I'll find the right place when I get there.
Yeah.
I'll just drive around and I'll turn here and I'll turn there and somehow I'll end up somewhere good. Well, if somebody said, you say you're an idiot. It's point A to point B. Be very clear about what point B is. Yeah. And then work back to the present and say, what is the very best way? What are the steps that I can take each day to get to point B? And then take those steps one at a time.
It's what I found in the book. A couple of points in the book that I really do a lot of. I'm doing research on and looking at now is, the goal setting is one, and just the sheer. Yeah. I mean, just the research behind it and shows what it will do for your life. That's a takeaway right there. The other one is, in Chapter 11, you bring up the concept of referrals, and I am absolutely fascinated with referrals and how people completely do not go after referrals in sales. And I always look at it as it's the fastest way to ramp your sales up and then have that multiplier effect after the fact.
Yeah, so this is a great exercise. Idealize again. What would be the perfect work for you to have as a salesperson? Well, is to work by referral only. So you think of those words, and I have a very good friend who built a company around this, trained people all over the country, became wealthy, and he said, if working by referral only is the very fastest way to build a successful business, and how do you do that? And then you work back to the present and you say, what would I have to do to deserve referrals? What would I have to do for people to eagerly give me referrals to their friends and associates? How would I treat them? What would I have to offer them? And then you begin to do that. And you'll find that top salespeople, I work with some of the highest paid salespeople in the world, every one of which started off with nothing, knocking on doors, dialing for dollars out of the yellow pages. And today they make hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars a year because they work almost exclusively by referral only. Mm-hmm. So what they say is, what would I have to do to get people to like and trust me so much that they would recommend their friends, that they would put their credibility on the line? And there's enormous amounts of research on this. But the bottom line is treat people the way you would like them to treat you. Oh, my, what a concept. Treat people like they're really important and really valuable. Take such good care of them and say, do you know anyone else who I could offer the same services to? And they'll say yes, or I just got a referral recommendation today from a good friend of mine. He said, I just started working with this company. They're doing a wonderful job for me. You should talk to them as well because they could do a wonderful job for you as well. This is a good friend of mine who is a top sales guy, but he is so impressed with the treatment he's getting from this other company, which is helping him to market. Mm-hmm. And I know the other company. He's telling me and telling other people personally, please call these people, talk to them, listen to them, look at what they have to say. That's good business.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
We call this customer advocacy. When you get your customers selling for you, then you're going to be very prosperous in selling.
Absolutely.
Well, all this advice. I mean, it's. I don't even know. I was going to ask you a general question about your book, but you're giving me all the advice tips already. What would be your best piece of advice as it relates to the book for our audience?
Well, again, first of all, have very clear goals. Make a decision that you're going to be one of the highest paid salespeople in your profession. Mm-hmm. And then step number 2 is make a plan to achieve that. And then step number 3 is, remember, nothing replaces activity. What I call frequency is get out there and call on people. Spend more time face-to-face with people who can and will buy from you. And what I found, and I've been in over 22 different sales industries over the course of my life, I have started off over and over again, cold, broke, picked up my briefcase, picked up the telephone, began making appointments and trudging and making presentations and closing the sale and delivering the product. I've done this over and over again. And every single time what I do is I just get busy. Mm-hmm. And people are always thinking, well, I'm going to use social media. We say social networking is social not working.
Yeah.
Fact is that nobody makes any money in social not working. The way that you make money is you get out face-to-face with people and you ask them questions and you look for ways to help them. One of my definitions in the book and throughout my career is a salesperson is a helper. What they do is they help people to improve their life and work with their product or service in a cost-effective way. They demonstrate clearly that my product or service will help you to achieve goals that are important to you, vastly in excess of the amount of money that you will pay. Mm-hmm. And then what I do is I say, and if you don't get that result, then there's no charge. When I was offering my audio programs and books and courses, I would say, you can take this, and if after 1 year you don't feel that this product has more than paid for itself and turned out to be free because of the benefit that you've gotten, you give it back and there's no charge. No questions asked, no charge. We'll rip it out of your hand because you should not have to pay for something that is actually a loss. Everything that you buy from me or from someone else should be a net gain to you. And people say, would you give that kind of a guarantee? Absolutely. It's not right for you to have to pay for something unless you're really happy with your results.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful advice. You know, Brian, we've come up on probably the time frame that we're allotted with you. First thing I want to say is thank you ever so much for taking the time out to talk to us today and also impart wisdom for us and our audience as well. Absolutely. And we greatly appreciate it. And hopefully one of those days you'll come to Calgary and we can see you live.
Yeah,
I'll be back. Love Calgary.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
Well, thanks very much, Brian, for joining us today. It's great to have you, and thank you all for watching live. We appreciate your time, and boy, this is what a great opportunity to connect with somebody with so much experience in the industry. Thanks, Brian, for joining us.
Thank you. Have a great day. Have a great Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well.